Okay, this is number 23, Unit 9, targets 5 and 6 homework. I'm trying to solve the triangle, which means we're trying to find all the angles and all the sides. I can check to see if I can use law of sines first. To use the law of sines, you need to have an angle measure, like 63 degrees, and you need to have the side length opposite it. So the only angle I have is the 63 degrees, and I don't have the side across from it. So I cannot use law of sines. I have to use law of cosines. Law of cosines uses that same idea, though, of an angle measure and a side across from it. So I wrote my law of cosines up here with x's and y's and z's to show you that it doesn't matter if it's A, B, or C, or any three letters. The law of cosines is a structure to show you which parts go together. So I have that stuff highlighted in yellow right now, and that's the part that's also highlighted in blue on my equation. The side length that I'm going to work with is going to start my equation or my formula. And the side length has to partner with the angle that I'm working with. Has to partner with, so in this case, x squared, I said cosine x to show they go together. So in my diagram, I have a b squared, or I have a b, sorry, angle b is 63 degrees. And so I would be using that to find side b, which is across from it. So I would start my equation, if I'm using the law of cosines, by saying b squared equals, and I would do some stuff, and at the end I would say it's times cosine 63 degrees. And that's how the law of cosines works. It always starts and ends with the same pair of letters. So the angle and the side opposite it. I chose to start with that one because that's the only angle I had. The other two parts in the formula, the y's and the z's, stand for the other two sides. Doesn't matter which is which. So now I'm going to plug in the rest of the numbers into my formula, knowing that the y and z are just the other two sides. So b squared, the side that I don't have and want to have, opposite my angle, is going to equal 38 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times 38 times 29 times cosine 63 degrees. On the right side of this big equation, I have all the numbers. So that means that I can actually use my calculator right away and plug all those numbers into the calculator. So I'm going to start from scratch here. We have 38 squared plus 29 squared. Then it's minus 2 times each of those sides. So times 38 and times 29. And then it's times the cosine of the angle that I started with. So the angle of the opposite the side I started with is 63 degrees. So I have to type in that 63. And I get this number 1284. And that 1284 point something, that's equal to b squared. So I don't want b squared, I want b. So I take the square root of both sides. I do the same thing in the calculator. Square root of my answer. To get my answer on some calculators, you can just press the up arrow and select it. But on almost every calculator, you can do second negative sign to bring up the previous answer stored in the calculator. And that gives me 35.9. So if I round, actually 35.8. So b is going to equal 35.8. So now I have all three sides of the triangle. I do want to find the other two angles, which means I'm going to need to use the law of cosines again. So I'm going to delete some stuff that I have here and try to use the law of cosines. Let's see if I can remember b equals 35.8. I can get rid of everything else. So b equals 35.8. Or I could just put a 35.8 there. Okay, so nothing's highlighted. I have one angle, b is 63 degrees. I have all three sides. I want to find another side. You can pick A or C. It does not matter. Okay, when you pick the angle that you want to work with, you have to pick the side across from it. And that's how you know where to plug in your numbers at the beginning and end of the structured formula. So to do this problem, I'm going to start with 29 squared equals, and I'm going to end with cosine of A. And then I'll have to work that out backwards to get the A value. Remember, the rest of the formula is just the other two side lengths that I didn't use yet. So the 29 squared is going to equal the 38 squared plus 35.8 squared minus 2 times 38 times 35.8 times cosine of A. I'm going to use my calculator, so go a little bit back and forth. Okay, the 29 squared, I don't know what 29 squared is. So 29 squared is 841. That's going to equal, this first part is 38 squared plus 35.8 squared. So 38 squared plus 35.8 squared. It's 2725.64. And then I always keep this part separated because it's subtracting a bunch of things that are being multiplied together. It's going to be negative because of the negative, and I need to do 2 times those other two numbers. So 2 times 38 times 35.8. So 2720, and then that's being multiplied by the cosine of angle A. So now I have an equation that's going to involve a few steps of working it out backwards. I have to gradually get the letter A completely by itself. So I want this green number to become a 0, because then I have 0 minus the rest, and that just gives me the rest. So I'll do that by subtracting this number on both sides. Okay, so I need to do 841 minus that number. The number was 2725.64. Still my calculator so I can see it. So now I have this negative 1,884.64. And I still have this negative 2,720.8 times cosine of A. We're going to divide on both sides by that negative 2720.8 number. Let my calculator do this work for me. I already have the negative 1884.64. If I just hit divide by, it uses that number. Dividing by 2,720.8. And so I have this decimal, negative 0.69. So cosine of A is equal to negative 0.69. Okay, I get all that with the calculator. That's the cosine of A. I want to get A, so I take the inverse cosine of that ratio, 0.69. Don't forget the negative. And I get A with my calculator. I'm going to turn off my marker first. So second cosine, second answer, 133.8 degrees. A is 133.8. And that does not look right. That's the largest angle on the triangle. It appears to be too big, so I need to go back and find a mistake I may have made somewhere. So I'm going to pause the recording and figure that out. Okay, I'm back and I figured it out. When I typed it in, I must have lost a negative sign. Right here I have a negative divided by a negative, which means this is a positive 0.69. And that does make a big difference. So if I go to my calculator, I'm going to go back up to this number that I had as a negative. Actually, let's clear that. I guess we'll start over with negative 1884.64 divided by negative 2720.8 gives me the positive 0.69. Second cosine of that answer is 46.2. And so the answer is 46.2, not 133. If you're wondering how I figured that out, one, I can tell in the diagram that that's there that the angle just doesn't make sense, but also the smallest angle in the triangle should be across from the smallest side. Well, side A, and highlighted in yellow, is the smallest side, which means angle A should be the smallest angle. Once I have two angles, I can add those two angles together and then subtract that from 180. So 46.2 plus 63 is 109.2. If I subtract that from 180, I get 70.8 degrees for angle C, and now I have all that.